Hey College and Career Success. So as I mentioned at the end of my week 5 video, I would be uploading a separate video for your final project that covers steps 3 and 4. So if you have not watched the video for steps 1 and 2, I would recommend watching that first because this kind of picks up where we left off with steps 1 and 2. So quick reminder, your final project is on a career path of your choice. So whether it's the career you're currently pursuing, one that you're interested in, maybe you're thinking of switching or entering, whatever the case might be. We said step 1 was to give us a brief description of that career, about a paragraph in length, the kind of responsibilities and tasks. Step 2 is to give an overview of how to get into your field, so the education, certification, licensure exams, that kind of thing that you would need before you get into the actual field. Those were steps 1 and 2. And we started a PowerPoint. We did our title page, career description, career pathway. Those were steps 1 and 2. Now we're going to talk about step 3, and I labeled it already professional organization. So professional organization. So what you're going to do is find a credible professional organization or association affiliated with your career. Most fields do have, in fact, a local, state, or national organization associated with their field. For instance, my example is the National Education Association for teachers. I have not come across yet, out of the several years I've done this final project, a field that does not have an organization associated with it. So you might be asking, well, how do I find it? I'm not in the field yet. What do I do? Google is your friend here. So here we go. Here's my first right there. And I think I used physical therapy before, so that's why I'm going to rely on that now. So the APTA is my hit, so to speak, for physical therapy. Now, there might be more than one, and my guess is there will be with physical therapy. But when you get your results, and I could type in professional organization for nursing, and kind of get a whole list of them. For web design, again, so there's almost, like I said, just about every field. I've not come across one that hasn't. I do want to caution you, when you are doing this, please pay attention to the .orgs. Stay with the .org if you can. Another one might be .net. I would avoid the .coms and the .edus, because the .coms anyone can create. The .edus are more than likely going to direct you to the college or university who has that program. So pay attention to the .orgs and the .nets. So I'm going to use, for this one, since I used physical therapy before, I'm going to use nursing as my example, and I'm going to kind of scroll down, and I'm going to use the American Nurses Association. And a lot of these sites are set up in a way that they tend to have, about or learn about us or who we are. So that's the first thing you're going to do. Step 3 says, briefly describe the purpose of this organization. So it's about a paragraph. Briefly describe the purpose. So here I have an about. So I'm going to click on that. And like I said, a lot of these resources do. They have an about or who we are. And this one is very detailed. Some of you may only get one page. Some of you may get several links. Like I said, you can go through all of those and find out. So there's lots of information here. And I'm just going to kind of, figure out who they are, what's their purpose, what's their goals. Okay. So that's the first part of step 3, is just tell me a little bit about this organization. Okay. Now, the second part of part 3 is, what are benefits? Why would you want to join this organization? So about 3 benefits to its members. Now, they may have a whole list. You only need to list 3. So I'm going to go up to the membership. And right here, they even have member benefits. You are not joining these organizations, okay? You do not have to join any of these unless, of course, you're like, oh, this looks kind of neat and it's rather inexpensive. Because most of these you do have to pay to join. So here are member benefits, and this one, again, has just quite a bit. I could go and click on, there's lots of benefits to joining this organization. So whenever you get to your organization, it'll probably have a tab called member benefits or why join or membership, and you're going to list 3 examples of why someone will want to join. What are the benefits? So in my final project, I would say, up here would probably be the name of the organization, and then I would type the purpose, and then I would type, my benefits. Okay, so that's kind of how I would set that up. All right, now step 4 This is where it gets a little tricky. Now in the health field, it's easier because you have HIPAA. So step 4 says, what is the code of conduct or the ethics? Now, often you're going to find that in your organization. They're going to kind of talk about, you know, the advocacy, the practices. In this case, they call it practice and advocacy. So you're going to find, you know, position statements. You're going to find ethics. Like they even have a whole tab for it right here. So you can use your organization. Oftentimes your organization will have their own section on ethics. Some of them might call it guidelines, some of it might call it advocacy, some of it call it principles. They might have it listed different ways, but essentially, what is your professionalism in your field? Like, how are you expected to conduct yourself? You know, are there certain rules you have to abide by? You know, there's lots of privacy rules when it comes to maybe like IT fields, and then obviously HIPAA and related information in health. You know, in culinary, there's information that has to do with, it leans more toward like the health side of things in terms of sanitation and safety. So every field has kind of those code of conducts or ethics. And so I have had people find their code of conduct or their ethics, and it's like 10 pages long. You're just summarizing. What are some basic tenets? What are some basic rules that people in your field have to follow? You don't need to list everything. So as I mentioned in the last video though, make sure you write down where you got your sources from. So more than likely, step 3 and 4 may go together, same source, but still jot it down so you know where it came from. So that next step, you know, code of conduct, or maybe it's the ethics, and you'll talk to me about that code of conduct there. Okay, so that's step 3 and step 4. Step 3 is the professional organization. Step 4 is like the code of conduct or the ethics. How should someone in your field behave? What is the right thing for them to do? Oftentimes, maybe what is the wrong thing for them to do? So you're going to kind of look through here. Again, on the field of nursing that I chose, they have just a bunch of stuff because obviously the medical field has a lot of ethics, guidelines and things. So if I were a nurse, I would kind of look through here and see like what are the big things that are sticking out? What do I really want to pay attention to? Maybe I would open up kind of that code of ethics for nurses and look through it and see, because if you're going into this field, it's something you have to know anyway. So just being familiar with that will be really helpful to you. I also wanted to show you real quickly, I have a couple of those examples up. So I think I started showing you this one in the last video. Here's my student who did web design. So she found the American Institute of Graphic Arts. So she gave me a real quick purpose. And then here are the benefits to joining that organization. And then I also have here, this is a physical therapy student, so there's her association and the benefits for joining. And then the code of conduct. She had to break hers down to community, client, and designers. That's her code of conduct for the web design field. And then my student in physical therapy gave us kind of the 8 standards that PTAs must follow. So those are some examples of kind of in action, the final project. So those are steps 3 and 4. So I will have a separate video that goes over step 5 and just kind of making sure you're okay with all the steps all together. All right, talk to you next time.